I look back at 2017, I think of just political chaos.
The Russian investigation has gone on for a long, long time.
The Me Too movement, that was a huge news event.
You had a lot of powerful men that really saw a precipitous fall from grace. Matt Lauer, Charlie Rose, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. The list is long, it is luminous, and it was shocking.
I feel like I'm gonna need a drink after this.
2017 is a little bit like the scene in a movie where, you know, you fought the battle, you think you're done, and then like over the hill comes an army 4 times the size.
Think about all the mayhem around the Trump White House and America's kind of retreat from the rest of the world, dropping out of the Paris Agreement.
Fake news is everywhere.
2017, hard unsubscribe. Like, could not hit unsubscribe fast enough. It's spam, it's marked as junk, I never want to get it again, goodbye.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
So in January, Trump was inaugurated, and it was a really bizarre day for a lot of people because, you know, a lot of people didn't think this would happen. A lot of people wondered if he would maybe tone it down for his inauguration speech, but he didn't. I think he made like 2 blood references.
This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
We all wanted just some moment of comedy, and George W. Bush really provided that. It was a rainy day, it was a dark day, and he had this raincoat that he could not figure out how it worked.
Yes, I even made that my cover photo. I loved that moment. I think it kind of brought us together because people on the right and the left could laugh in a really good-hearted way about the absolute ridiculousness of him not being able to get on a poncho.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute, alternative facts?
Shortly after the inauguration, we got the debut of the term alternative facts. Alternative facts, it's like the truth, but like remix. Like, so Kellyanne Conway was like, okay, so that's the truth, but we have alternative facts, which is also the truth, but not.
It used to be that there was the truth, and that was the thing that had happened. And now we have this strange thing where anything that the media reports isn't necessarily the truth. It's a set of facts, and then I think Kellyanne Conway came up with this term for facts that the administration wants to have that are different.
Well, I know Kellyanne, so let me say this. I know what she was trying to say. It didn't come out the best. But here's what she was trying to say. That if you're looking at an issue, there's 10 things that might be true. And one side might only talk about 5 things that are true, and the other side might talk about 5 things. So what she's talking about is talking about other facts that aren't being talked about. That's what I think she meant. I'll give her a little bit of a mulligan on that, but wasn't her best soundbite.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. That's what you guys should be writing and covering. That this, instead of sowing division about tweets and false narratives.
If you have to have Sean Spicer as the press secretary, thank goodness for Melissa McCarthy to make it worthwhile.
Settle down! Settle down! I know that myself and the press have gotten off to a rocky start.
Like, for someone whose job is to communicate and be a public speaker, he sucked at it. Like, he couldn't communicate and he couldn't publicly speak.
Melissa McCarthy just nailed it. She got his complete unhindered id, basically this rage that he just had for everybody. And they gave her a podium that moved around so that she could basically physically attack all the reporters, which I'm sure is something that Sean Spicer would have just loved.
It is the top of the hour, and we want to take you to D.C. We've been monitoring the Women's March coming out of Washington and across the entire world.
They were expecting about 200,000, and organizers tell us there were about 500,000.
Well, the Women's March was an incredible and powerful thing. I wish it hadn't had to exist, but I'm so glad that it did exist. It was basically the women of America just gathering together for the purposes of claiming that we are here and we are a group that has to be paid attention to in a way that it really felt like this administration was not.
It was this really powerful moment that brought literally hundreds of thousands of people together.
Kind of insane that we had to have an activism group just to say that women deserve attention and rights and fair treatment.
We're not taking this crap anymore. Like, we're going to stand up for ourselves and we're gonna fight, and we don't care how you see us or how we're described. We're just going to get what's ours and what we deserve.
I feel like it was a great precursor to women coming together again at the end of the year.
The way that sexual harassment, gender dynamics have become something that we talk about every day. Part of the reason is the reaction to Trump, and then the Women's March, and then all of these things that built from it.
You can't say definitively today that guns shouldn't be in schools?
Well, I will refer back to Senator Enzi and the school that he was talking about in Wapiti, Wyoming. I think probably there, I would imagine that there's probably a gun in the school to protect from potential grizzlies.
She said that people need guns in schools because grizzly bears might show up.
I know when I was in elementary school, I often opened my locker and there was a bear inside, and I thought during those times, what if I had a big gun?
I think she admitted she was not as well prepared as she should have been. I know Betsy, I think she's doing a great job. Probably wasn't the best moment for her. Some senators definitely got her on her heels.
I remember I got on Twitter and I saw Betsy DeVos and grizzly bears were trending, and I was like, oh, so this is what the day is gonna be. This is what we're getting into this morning.
President Trump signed an executive order today he says will keep out Islamic terrorists.
The president's executive action will implement what he calls extreme vetting of immigrants.
Measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America. We don't want them here.
The travel ban, I'm glad you called it that, because some people call it other things, but it totally isn't. Trump
suddenly announces that, he's going to ban, not Muslims, but he's going to ban people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. And there is an uproar.
Pandemonium was let loose, to say the least, and there was the famous scenes at the airport where people were rallying and trying to block. The ACLU filed lawsuit.
Lawyers showing up to help people who needed it or were having trouble traveling or getting where they needed to go.
It was an interesting American moment.
Her name was a bit longer than most, but in the 1970s, she only needed a one-word introduction.
Mary.
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 Mary Richards may not have shattered the glass ceiling, but she sure opened the door, and millions of women followed her in.
When I found out that my icon, Mary Tyler Moore, had died, I was so sad and so shocked that I threw my imaginary hat into the air in memoriam. She was one of the funniest people that's ever been put on this earth. She has such a legacy. She is such an inspiration for women, for working women, for comedians. Her reach is so far, and to lose her is horrible. And someone please check on Dick Van Dyke, because if we lose him too, I will be really sad.
The Trump administration faces a high-level shakeup after less than a month in office. The president's national security advisor, General Michael Flynn, suddenly resigned late last night.
After just 22 days on the job, General Michael Flynn abruptly stepped down from his top national security post. In his resignation letter, Flynn blamed the fast pace of events during the presidential transition for causing him to, quote, inadvertently leave out key details of phone calls with the Russian ambassador prior to inauguration.
General Flynn admitted he didn't tell Vice President Mike Pence and other officials everything about those discussions. He is the shortest-serving national security advisor now in modern history.
So Michael Flynn is going to go down as one of the signature characters of the early Trump administration. He goes on stage, the RNC, lock her up, right? He's a general, right? And we're supposed to trust generals in this country, and he seems dynamic.
Heavy focus of the Russia investigation. We don't know yet how involved his involvement with Russia is. We do know he was registered as a foreign agent under Turkey and Erdogan, which is not acceptable, obviously.
Wait a second. What exactly is he doing? Who was he talking to in Russia? Wait, he did that with Turkey?
So Mike Flynn was the first of the Trump administration to have to step down or be fired or resign because of shady dealings with Russia. So it was really the first of what would be many. It's like, oh, he did it, but nobody else did. And then, 2 months later, it's, oh, well, also he did, but nobody else.
He pled guilty. And he pled guilty to lying to the FBI, but more importantly, he will give whatever evidence he has about Trump to Robert Mueller. And now Trump says he doesn't have anything, we didn't do anything illegal, there may be no evidence. We'll see.
Hollywood's biggest night also ended with a truly unscripted Hollywood finish. La La Land was accidentally named Best Picture after the wrong envelope was opened.
Yo, that Best Picture mix-up at the Oscars was probably the only good thing that happened to Black people in 2017. Moonlight was such an incredible movie that I think people were really sad when it didn't win Best Picture, but it's kind of like, you win some, you lose some. And I was about to turn off my television and be like, get out of my house, like Oscar watchers, because I had like a party. And just as I was about to hit power off on my TV,
I saw somebody run across the stage and it just felt weird, and I was like, yo, it would be so crazy if this was like a Steve Harvey moment.
Then all of a sudden, he sort of gets this message, and he's like, oh my God, no, never mind, Moonlight, you guys won, come up, you guys won. And it was so weird.
And everyone in my house stood on my couch, which I'm still trying to fix, and was like, what?
I'm so baffled as to how something like that happens.
It's the Oscars, and you go and you fudge it up by giving the wrong award to Best Picture.
Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here. Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
Oh my God, I can't. I like literally get chills thinking about Get Out.
I'm so happy that Get Out is getting the recognition it deserves because it is a perfectly done film. Jordan Peele had such a good idea and executed it so well. From top to bottom, that cast is everything. The conceit of the movie is everything. And it still makes me a little scared when people take my picture with Flash.
Get Out seemed to be one of those movies that comes along once in a generation that totally resets itself. It's about racism in America in a very interesting way. And not overt racism in America, but sort of racism built into the fabric of the culture and those who think that they are not racist. Very interesting perspective on it. That was also terrifying and fascinating and a really fantastic movie. And it became a huge hit.
Everybody watched the Super Bowl last night? Hell of a game. Biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. The Falcons were running away with it. I almost turned it off. It was 28-3. Then in the third quarter, FBI Director James Comey announced he was opening an investigation into Matt Ryan's emails.
Patriots go down 28-3. Everybody's despairing. My kids are like, we're not gonna watch. I was like, just watch.
Tom Brady, it definitely proved that he is the greatest of all time in this past Super Bowl. And the Falcons, it was a terrible time to be a Falcons fan in the second half.
You suddenly see this team that I like because I'm from Boston, but I also like because of the way they're coached and the discipline they have. And I actually like Tom Brady and his diet, and he drinks 12 gallons of water and eats only broccoli. I like seeing a guy like that succeed.
Did Tom Brady win or did the Falcons lose? I mean, that really comes down to, I guess, what kind of fan you are.
I know you're not supposed to root for the team that's already won 4 Super Bowls. You should root for the underdog, but I thought it was amazing. And I'm sorry to the rest of America because I know everybody else hates the Patriots.
Well, Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson is facing some backlash after referring to slaves as immigrants.
That's what America is about. A land of dreams and opportunity. There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, worked even longer, even harder for less.
I gotta thank Ben Carson because he informed me that I am actually the descendant of immigrants. I always thought I was a descendant of slaves, but it turns out my slave ancestors were immigrants, according to legendary doctor and not historian, but Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson.
Ben Carson, what are you thinking? He's a brain surgeon, and yet he says these completely oddly dunderheaded things.
Immigration definitely has to imply like the willingness to leave, like to come to a new place. There was no willingness there.
But they too had a dream.
They had a dream of not being slaves.